Hello, my name is Jackie Liu, and today I'll be showing you guys how to deploy a UHRP storage server. At the end of this, you will have a UHRP storage server on Google Cloud Platform um, that can handle the UHRP protocol. Before we get started, some of the prerequisites are you will need access to a GCP, Google Cloud Platform project with billing. Walk you through how to create that project, but you will need to create an account beforehand. You'll also need a GitHub account and repository, which you will fork and clone everything into. I'll show you how to do that as well. You will need a domain name that you have access to the A record of. This one is optional, but it is heavily recommended for people to be able to access the server and use the server. And yeah, that's everything you'll need to get started. So on to the actual demonstration. First step is to go onto this GitHub repository, github.com/bsvblockchain/storage server. And this actually contains a in-depth walkthrough in text that I'll be walking through today. This is the repository that you will need to clone. If you click code here, SSH, and then if you open your terminal, change directory into whatever directory you want, and then do git clone that repository, and then clone it into storage server. Now, if you change into the storage server directory, you can see that if you run git remote show origin, this is still pointing to the BSV blockchain one. And if you want to deploy your own, that is not good. You'll want to create your own repository that you'll work out of. So if you go onto GitHub and you click up here, create new repository. And here we can name it, let's call it UHRP Storage Server Demo. And you can call this whatever you want. That'll be it. You can set the visibility. This isn't the visibility of the actual server. This is just the visibility of the repository. I'll set it to private since no one else should be working on this repository. We'll want to port over everything that we've just cloned. We copy this URL, whatever's generated here for you. Go back to the command line, make sure we are in the storage server directory. And then we do git remote remove origin. This will remove the origin of the BSV blockchain repository. We now do git remote add origin and then paste the URL that you've copied. We can now do this, and it has updated. Now simply you can just do git push. It'll ask you to set the upstream, do all that. If we go back to this tab and we refresh, we have a repository. Woo. So yeah, that's everything you need to do on the repository for now. Next step is to set up the Google Cloud Console, for which you'll need to go to console.cloud.google.com. You probably need to log into your account on whatever account you have. The very first step on here is to create a new project. So if you click up here, select a project, and then in the top right corner, there should be new project. You'll want to call it something that makes sense to you. So for this, it would be UHRP Storage Server, and let's call it demo. Perfect. This may take a little bit, but the project will be created. Once you make it here, you may be asked to link a billing account and anything else that you do not have linked to this account already. To do that, you'll just simply go to billing account and then fill everything out. I have all of that tied in with my account already. We'll be moving on to the next step. So the next big step is actually to set up all of your secrets in the repository. If you go back to your terminal and then open VS Code or whatever environment you want to code in. You'll see there's a lot of directories. The ones that are interesting to us are that GitHub workflows, and then deploy.yaml, also setup.yaml, since these are the two files we'll be running to actually deploy the servers and set up the GCP project. For these, we use GitHub secrets. For instance, need to set up Git Google project ID, GCR host, GCR image name, all of these. And doing that manually is a big pain. One thing that we can do is if we go down here to secrets, you can see there's a .env.example. If you open that up, you'll see there's a template for everything here. So if you just copy this file, so cp secrets, cp secrets / env.example, and you want to copy this into secrets / either staging.env or prod.env. So there's two different workflows that, two different versions of this server that you could set up. One is for production, one is for staging. The staging one is for testnet, and it uses testnet tokens with BSV. And the prod one, of course, uses mainnet tokens. That's the real big difference with it. For this demonstration, I'll be doing everything in prod. It is also the exact same setup. You would just change everything that's prod to staging or testnet. Let's make prod.env. And that creates a separate file with everything in it. Now we will need to set up each of these lines ourselves. First step is just to remove all of these comments. Cool. So I'll be explaining each of these secrets one at a time. Admin token is the token that will need to be used to communicate between the two services that we'll be deploying, that being the notifier and the actual storage server. This will just be a header that will be required to communicate between the two. This can be anything, including super secret admin token, but you will probably want something a little bit more secret than that. For this demo, I'll just be keeping it that way. For BSV network, it's either mainnet or testnet. For production builds, it's most likely going to be a mainnet, but you could set this to testnet if you really wanted to. GCP bucket name. This will be whatever you want to call your Google Cloud storage bucket. UHRP storage works just fine, but if you want something more specific, you can change it. For instance, if you wanted to deploy both a staging and a prod, which you could do, you could change this to storage prod or storage staging, whatever you want for it. For the GCR host, this is a weirder one. This will be the host that your image and repository are hosted on. For the United States, currently, the only difference you need to make between the regions is just changing the West 1. Depending on your region, whatever you want to deploy to, there may be a funky GCR host URL. I think I'll want to deploy this project on US Central 1. So let's just change this to US Central 1 -docker.package.dev, and everything will be done in using a Docker GCR repository. So just keep that in mind. For this one, the Google project ID, this will be the ID of the Google project that you just set up. So if we go back to here, we click on the open project, we can see that the ID is right here. Now, it may not always be the same as the name. If your name is unique enough, it will be. It could be the same, but a lot of the times it's just randomly generated. Let's make this easier. So we paste that here, and that's our Google project ID. For the GCR image name, this isn't just a name for the image that we'll be deploying. It's both the repository and the image name. So for this test project, demo project, we're deploying an image and we're deploying a repository called UHRP and an image called Storage Server. You can change either of these to whatever you want. This works though. And for the node environment, it's either production or staging. Pretty explanatory there. Hosting domain. This is a fun one because this will be the domain that everyone will use to access the storage server. So you will need to be able to set up an A record or point an A record to a domain to an IP address. And for this demo, I will be using DuckDNS, which is a free dynamic DNS hosting website. If we just sign in here, sign in, yes, complete the CAPTCHA. Cool. You can register a domain on DuckDNS. Given this is probably not what you will want for an actual deployment of the server, but for that you may want to go onto, say, GoDaddy or Squarespace to actually purchase a domain, but this is just a simple free one for demo purposes. Call this UHRP Storage, and then we click Add Domain. Success. So this is the full domain that we will put here as the hosting domain. Now, if we try and access this right now, of course, it's just an empty page. Also, there's no certificates, which we will also set up later. Yeah. Cool. Next few secrets that we'll be setting up are more server related code. So here is price per gigabyte per month. This will be however much we're charging the users, approximately in USD per month per gigabyte. So say someone uploads a gigabyte file and they want to store it for 3 months. We'll be charging them 9 cents worth of sats if this is set to 0.03. And you can set this to whatever you want. 0.03 is a pretty good point though. For the server private key, this is just a 32-byte server private key, and you can really easily generate one if you go to wui.bf.dev, and then if you click add new, you can generate a random key and just copy it here. You will want this to be very random and very secure. Probably don't share this with anyone because this will be where all of the sats that you are paid will go to. And if you want to access it, actually, Wui is a great place to do that. You could call this like UHRP Storage Server. Switch it to mainnet or whatever you're using. For this, it would be mainnet. And you can see how many sats are in the basket. Since this is a brand new server, it will be 0. But you can also export and import the funds, which is pretty cool. From wui.bf.dev. For now, just getting the private key is the big thing. And this will be the key to the server. So next secret is min hosting minutes. This will be the minimum amount of time you're allowing the users to upload a file for. So if this is set at 180, the server will not accept any files that are requesting to be hosted for less than 3 hours. And it's just a cool thing that you can set. For the wallet storage URL, this will be either staging-storage.babbage.systems or just simply storage.babbage.systems for a prod version, since we're using mainnet and real BSV. The wallet storage URL will be storage.babbage.systems likely. The next one is HTTP currently. The way the server is set up, it's expecting to be ran on 8080. If you want to change this, it could mess some stuff up. If you have other things running on port 8080, or if you have other things that you want to run on port 8080, you could change this here. Just a warning that it may break some stuff. These next two are actually optional environment variables, and these will just change the way that GitHub Actions sets everything up. So you can use your Docker Hub instance and your Docker Hub account to deploy everything. For this demo, we will not be needing that. And then there's these two. These two will be set up later, but keep these in mind. So if we just remove those for now, this is our secrets file. To run this, you will need to npm I, and then it's just simply npm run secrets :prod or staging, whatever you want here. And it creates and sets all of these environment variables. Oh, this is the wrong repository. So one thing that you may want to do is, oh, actually that was the right repository, never mind. So yeah, it goes to whatever your origin is set at. So once we've set those variables, we can come back here, click on settings, and if we scroll all the way down here, secrets and variables, if we go to actions, you'll see we now have a big list of environment secrets on the environment of production. If you're wanting to run this on staging, you would see staging here instead. And all of these should match these. The reason to keep this prod.m file is because there's no way to view the GitHub secrets once you've set them. So having this here just to have a sanity check for everything could be very useful in the deployment process. Yeah, so there's just one more secret that we have to set, and one more thing we need to do in the cloud project before we start setting everything up in it. And that is we need a bootstrapping IAM account. So if we go to IAM here, IAM and admin, click on it, we can see all of the service accounts and any other account that's on the project. Currently, we just have one, and that's me, the owner. But we will need a service account that has access to create stuff on this project if we want to have a deployment. So if we come down here to service accounts, and then we click create service account, this will be a temporary service account, so we call it whatever we want. For this, I'll just be calling it UHRP Bootstrap. It will set everything up just the way we want it to. We create and continue. You could be thorough about all of this, but since this is a temporary service account and we'll want it to have a lot of permissions, we can just set it to owner. We hit create. Now we have this service account that has the role of owner. In order to have GitHub Actions be able to use this service account, we'll need to create a key. And to do so, you simply just click on the service account in the service accounts page, click up here on keys, and create new key. And the type we'll want is JSON. Hit create. Downloads a file to our computer. This file can be accessed to reveal everything about the service account. Now, if we just copy this entire file and we come over here, back to the repository in the secrets and variables actions page, Right below environment secrets, we will have repository secrets, and we'll simply just want to add one. The naming of this one is important. It will need to be GCP underscore bootstrap underscore key. For the secret, we can just simply paste the entire JSON file as plain text. And click Add Secret, and it should be set here. Perfect. That's everything we need to set up before we run the setup action. Okay, now that we have all of these environment variables set, and all the secrets set on GitHub, we can come over here to the Actions page. And on the left, we should have two different workflows. One more try. Okay, now that we have all of these environment secrets set and repository secrets set, we can come over to our Actions page, and we'll see that there's only the deployment workflow. And that is because we've only pushed to the master branch. Now, there's two branches that will trigger a workflow. There's the master branch and the production branch. So whenever you push to either of those, it'll trigger the deploy workflow. Now, the production workflow is the one that we will want because every other workflow except for production will default to staging. So if we change the branch of which we are currently on master, we can change it to production. Now if we get push, if we get switch, production, now we get push, ask for us to set upstream again, simply do that. Over here, we should have a new branch called production. Now, if we go back to actions, we see that it's working through the deployment. Okay, now that we have all of our environment secrets and repository secrets set up, we will want to run the setup workflow to get our Google Cloud project all set up with everything that we need. If we come over here to setup.yaml in the .github workflows directory, we can see that everything that it does and everything that it requires. And it reads the secrets that we've just set up. What this workflow does includes enabling all of the required APIs, such as Cloud Run, Event Arc, Pub Sub, Artifact Registry, and it does all of that autonomously. It also creates the Google Cloud Storage bucket that everyone will be uploading to, and will store all of the files that they upload. It also sets up the IAM accounts, which includes granting the Event Arc and Pub Sub accounts the project bindings that they require, and it creates two service accounts, one for the deployer and one for runtime. It also creates an artifact registry, which will store all of our container images that we will run. And in order to do this, we will first need to create a separate branch. If you're deploying a staging server, you can keep this on master. Master works just fine. But since we're doing production, we will simply need to create a new branch called production. If we get switch into production, oops. Yeah, if we get branch now, we can simply get push, and that creates a new branch, production. Now if we come over here, production, perfect. If we go into the actions page now, we'll see that a workflow has been triggered, and that's the deploy workflow. We can simply just cancel this workflow because deploy will always need to run after setup, and setup only runs once. But every single time you push to either production or master, the deploy workflow will trigger. Now, in order to run the setup workflow, we simply go to the Actions page, click Setup GCP Bootstrap, run the workflow, change our branch to whatever branch you're on. For us, it would be production, target environment, production, and in GCP region. This is what we set up earlier for our GCR host, but simply just the region part. This for this demo, it'll be US Central 1. So we click Run Workflow. We refresh the page, and it starts going. And this may take a little bit, but it does everything I listed earlier. Okay, now if you see a green check mark here, you will know that everything's set up properly now. But just to check further, if you go back to the Google Cloud Console, we can go to storage buckets here, and we can see that a storage bucket is created with whatever name we give it. For me, it was UHRP Storage Demo, and it's created with all of the proper permissions and all of that. Another place that we should check is the image from Container Registry. And we should have a repository that's set up. Mine is called UHRP, and there's no images in it yet because the deploy script will create the images that we need. And the last place is the IAM page. This should have a few more service accounts with a lot more roles. The two that are interesting for us are the default compute service account and the UHRP GitHub deployer service accounts, both of which we will need keys for the deployer. So that's the next step. If we come on the left here to service accounts, we can see that the only one with a key right now is the UHRP Bootstrap, and we actually do not need the service account anymore, so we can simply just delete it. Yeah, delete service account. That Bootstrap account was only for the setup, and it allowed GitHub Actions to create everything that I've just shown you. But we will need to add the keys to these two service accounts into our GitHub repo as secrets. So let's generate keys, add key, create new key, JSON. And this one gets saved here. I would recommend renaming it to something a little bit more readable, or like something that you know what it is. This one in particular will be a runtime account. So just call it runtime.json, the app engine default service account. And then the deployer account over here, if we make a key. Now that we have the Bootstrap account deleted, we will need to add the keys for the UHRP GitHub deployer service account, and also the default compute service account into the GitHub secrets so that the deployer can use these two accounts. Let's start with the GitHub deployer one. So if we click on it, click keys, click add key, create new key, JSON. We will have a new file here. And let's just rename this to something simple. that we'll know. This one can be called deployer. And let's make a second key for default compute service account. Keys, add key, create new key, JSON. And if we open this now, we'll rename this to runtime, since this is our runtime account. Now, the easiest way to add those two keys into the secrets is to simply add to the prod.m for the staging.m file, and I'm rerunning secrets prod or secret staging. The two secrets will need to be called gcr_push_key, and this one will be our deployer account, and also GCP storage threads, which will be our runtime account. Now for the push key, it's recommended that you base64 encode this key, as it's easier for the deploy.yaml to run it. If you see issues with the deploy, and you didn't base64 encode it, that may be part of the issue. But you can very simply base64 encode it if you change the directory to the directory with the file in it. I'm gonna run base64-i deployer.json trd and then pb copy to copy it. You get a base64 encoded string, and that can be set as a GCR push key. For the GCP storage creds, it's much simpler, but if we just went over there and copied all of the contents, it would have multiple lines, and M files can unfortunately not read multiple lines easily. So if we just cat the runtime account, without the -i, but with everything else, we should have it all in one line. And that's all for the two accounts for this project. Now if we simply run npm run secrets prod again, we need to be back in the storage server directory. We'll want to save this, and then npm run secrets prod. It'll set the two variables. So here we have GCR push key and GCP storage creds. And if we come over here, we can verify that. GCR push key and GCP storage creds. Perfect. If we now go back to the actions, we can finally run the deployment. And whenever you push to either production or master, it'll automatically run deploy. We can simply rerun the deploy now that we have the setup fully done. So if we click on the deployment that was ran earlier on the production branch or the master branch, whichever one you're on, click rerun jobs, we can let it go. And this can take upwards of 10 minutes. Okay, now if you see a green check mark, that is a great sign. That means both of your Google Cloud Run services should be up now. So if we go back to the Cloud Console, and if we just search run, Cloud Run, we will see that both of these services are up. So we have prod UHRP and prod notifier, which is exactly what we are expecting. So prod UHRP will be the one that stores everything on the cloud storage bucket, and it also handles retrieval and everything else relating to the files themselves. Prod notifier is what broadcasts the token and the UHRP file to the overlay system that we have set up for UHRP. So now that we have these two set up, we can actually do a preliminary test. So if we click on prod UHRP or whatever your service is called, not the notifier one, if we copy the URL and if we navigate ourselves to uhrp-ui.bapp.dev, we will see that this is the UHRP storage UI, and we have a little UI that we can do everything off of. And now if you open the MetaNet desktop, you should be able to use the website. And if we go to upload, add new option, then we paste in the URL that we just copied, including the HTTPS, but make sure there's no / here. Just end it with app. We click add, select any file we may want. For this, let's simply upload the README file. And if we click submit, our MetaNet desktop should get prompted for access a few times. But it should say successful, and it should give us a UHRP URL. This is a great sign. It means that the file is being stored on the cloud storage bucket. And if we reload this page, and if we go to logs, we should see that the upload route is hit and everything's being stored. So now if we go to storage, go to buckets, UHRP storage demo, go to CDN, we should be able to see the file. If we download it, here it is. But the issue is if we now go to the notifier, if we go to Cloud Run again, prod notifier, and then if we go to the logs here, we will see that there's an error here saying that the connection has refused. And this is because we have the prod notifier is trying to fetch the storage server using the duck DNS or whatever DNS you set up, hosting domain here, and this isn't pointing at anything, so we need to get that pointing at stuff. And the way we do that is using a load balancer. So you will have to set this up manually, but if you simply search load balancing here, we will have to make a new load balancer. And what this allows us to do is we can point our hosting domain at the IP address that the load balancer is set on. So here, we simply just want to go application load balancer, public facing, best for regional workloads. Oh wait, best for global workloads, definitely. And then load balancer generation, just the standard. There we are. And then configure. Okay, here we have the load balancer, and we can call this, let's call this prod UHRP load balancer. For the front end configuration, we can call it whatever we want. Let's call this prod, just call it prod front end. You can give it a description if you want to. The protocol will be HTTPS, and very importantly, we want to check this box, enabled HTTP to HTTPS redirect. In order to do so, we need a certificate. We can keep the IP version, IPv4, IP address ephemeral. And then certificate here, create new. We can call this, let's call it prod UHRP certificate. And we'll want it to be Google managed 100%. For the domain, we would simply copy whatever we had for this domain, or for this domain, whatever you set as the hosting domain. We'll go right here, create. Okay, and Google will automatically set all of that up. Oh, for the IP address, actually, we will want to create an IP address. We can just call it as prod UHRP ingress, or whatever you want to. Yeah, and that allows us to enable HTTP to HTTPS redirect. Perfect. Let's move on to the backend. Yep. So we'll need both the backend we'll both need to link a backend service and a backend bucket to this load balancer. So first, let's do the service. This can be called prod backend service. You can set a description if you really want to. The backend type will be snag, serverless network and endpoint group. The protocol is HTTPS, and we'll need to create a new snag. So here we can call it prod snag, or whatever you want. For the region, make sure that you choose the same one that you set earlier. So for us, it would be, for this project, it would be US Central 1. But if you set it to anything different for the hosting domain and storage bucket, you will want to set that. The group type will be Cloud Run, and we simply select the prod UHRP or staging UHRP or whatever you call it. And that should be everything, yeah. We will want to disable Cloud CDN 100%, because we do not need it. And default security policy works just fine. Hit create. Okay, now we'll want to attach a backend bucket. Let's go prod backend bucket, cloud storage bucket, and we'll want to select the one that we've set up. So for me, it would be UHRP storage demo. For this one, you can leave Cloud CDN enabled, and that's just fine. So that's exactly what we want. Boom, okay. Okay. Perfect. And now that we have both of those set up, we can move on to the very last step, and that's the routing rules. There's just simply one route that we have to add. The default should point to the backend service, but we'll need a route to the backend bucket. That will simply be CDN, this string right here, because our notifier is configured to only accept files that are being put on the CDN route. If we finalize and review, we should just be able to hit, oh, it's over here, create. When everything looks similar to mine, you should be good to go. And just click create, and it should load for a little bit. And it should create two separate load balancers. Perfect. Okay, after pressing the create button, and after the load balancers create themselves, you should see two separate load balancers, because we have the HTTP redirect, as specified in the front end. And if you see this is what you want. Okay, after hitting create, you should see this after it loads for a little bit. And there's the prod UHRP load balancer and the prod front end redirect. This is what we set up in the front end for the redirect, and we should not need to worry about this one since it's already pre-configured with just a redirect with IP. For the prod UHRP load balancer, we will need to monitor the certificate, and currently it's trying to provision to the domain that you set for the hosting domain. This will take quite some time. It says up to 24 hours here. From my experience, it takes around 8 hours, give or take a little bit. All we want to really do is, this is the port that we will want our hosting domain to be pointed at with an A record. So if you decide to use DuckDNS, you can come here, but whatever hosting website you used, you just want to point it. This is an IPv4 address. If we just point it right at that, whoops, without the port number, and IP address will be updated. Perfect. And if we reload the page, you should see that it's the same as what we set up. So the very last step is just waiting for it to propagate and provision. And it does take a long time, so be patient with it. Okay, it's been overnight, and now the SSL certificate is now provisioned, so everything is now active, and this domain is now pointing at the IP address of the load balancer. So if we just take this domain now, or whatever you set up before, and we come over here to uhrp-ui.bapp.dev, we go back to upload, we can now set the storage server URL as the hosting domain, which is what we want. For me, it's the DuckDNS URL because it's what I have set up. And now if we select a file, any file, I'll just be uploading the README again. We click upload now. It should still say upload successful, which is what we were seeing before on the Google Cloud Run auto-generated URL. But now this URL is pointing at everything. And now that we have the load balancer all set up, the Cloud Run function should also be able to access the prod notifier. So if we come over here to the prod notifier, we can see that it got a UHRP URL. And what the prod notifier does after it generates a UHRP URL is it then calls the prod UHRP advertise route. And this error is a non-error. It just means that it failed to broadcast to a certain overlay service. But the fact that the advertise route is hit means that you should now be able to download this file using UHRP as well. For the hosting domain here, you will need the protocol, and it has to be HTTPS. So just be sure to add it before you set the secrets. And if you've already set the secrets, you can easily rerun the set script and it'll reset all of them. And so if we just copy this UHRP URL, we can then come over here to the download section. We just enter the URL, no need to specify hosting domain. Choose whatever network you're on. And if we go to download, we can see the README file. And now anyone can download this file for the 3 hours that it is up. And you can select however long you want it to be up for. Yeah. So you now have a fully working storage server. Congratulations.